But yeah, it's a young man's game, and that's the fun part is the battle against time and the battle against age and the battle against the young guys trying to take your spot.
I'm 45 years old, man. There's a lot of shit going on, so.
Watching the legends of the game grow older is a trip. It used to seem like solely a physical transition as players' bodies break down over time. But what we really hadn't seen until recently was what would happen when players finally figured out a way to extend their physical prime. Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady are the OGs of OGs in the NFL. In a league where the average career length is 3 years, that means that Brady with 22 seasons and Rodgers with 17 have seen more football than the average NFL player would in 6 or 7 lifetimes. But sports immortality, it comes with challenges that most pro athletes won't last long enough to ever experience. Many people feel like because of this, the NFL's two elder statesmen are becoming increasingly less relatable. But I kind of feel like it's the exact opposite. Brady's struggling with the trials of real life as a middle-aged man with a family, a job, and a brand. In 2022, that's more relatable than a lot of people probably realize. According to a survey conducted by Zapier.com, 40% of Americans have side hustles or brands that's on top of having a regular job. And a lot of people are finding that at times it can be overwhelming juggling your 9 to 5 and your side business and your family, etc. So kind of seeing Brady struggle with some of that, although of course on a much higher level, is something that in 2022 a lot of people could probably relate to. At the same time, Aaron Rodgers is unmarried with no kids. He is dealing with the same middle-aged stuff as Brady, but he is experiencing it as a single man. You can see him going through his little experimental phase, looking into holistic medicine, experimenting with different kinds of drugs, all in search for longevity, peace, and a deeper understanding of this whole thing that we doing. We've watched these dudes change in front of our eyes, and that's perfectly natural. This is a chart that was adapted from a book called The Seasons of a Man's Life and posted on the artofmanliness.com. Not a website I frequent very often, but I thought this chart was dope. So the chart shows a breakdown of the stages and transitions in a man's life cycle. Now the average NFL player is 26 years old, placing them here on the chart. Meanwhile, Brady and Rodgers are way up here in the midlife transition stage, entering middle adulthood. We may have actually seen both of them go through this phase that the author of the book calls the boom phase. That stands for becoming one's own man. In this phase, according to the book, a man sets out to become a senior member of his enterprise, to speak more clearly with his own voice, to have a greater measure of authority, and to become less dependent on other individuals and institutions in his life. Maybe we saw Brady go through that when he stood up to Belichick and left the Patriots organization. I think for Aaron, he just started moving different altogether. Remember how wild it felt when he first started going on Pat McAfee every week? Moving to the beat of his own drum and standing on what he believed in and just not giving a damn about the backlash. So now they're experiencing a phase of life that we usually don't get to see active athletes go through. We've seen it in retirement, but it's rare that we see dudes still active, still on their game, going through these phases. Stability is something that's been preached forever, and it's always felt like longevity and stability go hand in hand. But maybe that's only the case because in 99% of situations, we only get to see that initial transition, you know, from naive rookie to seasoned vet. But then after you become a seasoned vet, one day, extremely soon after, that veteran declines to the point that he can no longer be helpful to the team, so he walks away from the game and transitions into the next phase of his life. But imagine sticking around so long that you start to transition into the next phase while the lights are still bright and the cameras are still rolling. Cue the Wayne. Alright, real quick before we jump in, a quick word from today's video sponsor, SeatGeek. Alright, football season is here, like it's really that time. And if you really want the chance to see some of your favorite current NFL players in person, you can do so with the help of today's video sponsor, SeatGeek. Now, if you're not familiar with SeatGeek, it's basically a ticketing app that makes getting the best ticket prices on live events extremely simple. It's also a sponsorship I've worked with since the early stages of this channel. Been rocking with SeatGeek for a long time and they've always been pretty damn solid. And it's not just sports events, we talking any live event. So yeah, of course the NFL game, the NBA game, but also concerts, festivals. If you haven't checked it out, it's broader than you might think, so maybe, give it a download. They compile tickets from all over the web so you can easily compare it and get prices. They use a system that even my 6-year-old can understand, as the whole thing is color coded. Green is a good deal, red is a bad one. Simple as that, easy peasy. Also, when you use the app, you can get an additional $20 off, all by using the code FlemLo when you check out. So again, that's $20 off your first purchase when you use the code FlemLo. So make sure you click the link in the description and download the app, man. Shout out to SeatGeek once again for sponsoring the video and sponsoring many videos in the past. Without further ado, let's get it. I used to hate Tom Brady, the overrated Patriots quarterback who got bailed out by the refs, carried by his defense, his coach, and his kicker 7 different times, while he was apparently just along for the ride. But you gotta understand, I was like 12 years old when this man won his first Super Bowl. I was operating with the mind of a child, and as I've gotten older, my opinion has changed as I've watched this dude go from Drew Bledsoe's backup to arguably the greatest NFL player of all time. His ascension has just been meteoric on a level that's really hard to fathom, especially when you think about what that transition really means for your personal life. Imagine if one of them career modes you did growing up was actually real. How would that change things in your day-to-day? Would you live in the same place? Be friends with the same people? Be as good a parent to your kid? Maybe, maybe not. Brady went from not a complete average Joe. I mean, he was a D1 quarterback, but look at this man. Does this really look like the pose of a man who knew he was gonna become the GOAT? No, this is the pose of a man who knows that he is. And this could be a weight heavier than any of us could ever imagine. Tom Brady has led a storybook career, unprecedented 20-year run that kind of feels like something out of a fairy tale. And just like a fairy tale, when you dig a little bit deeper, you start to find some darker themes that probably didn't realize were actually there. Tom Brady's career has mostly been presented through a carefully filtered lens. His image, which has become edgier as of late, has always been that of a wholesome, humble, down-to-earth guy who just happens to have one of the most savagely competitive mean streaks that we've ever seen in sports. Everything was perfectly placed. Rage at the right time, humility at the right time, resilience at the right time. Dude was almost always on point. But as time has passed, Brady's delicate and well-crafted image has started to pixelate. Nothing too damning, just inconsistent with the brand that we've bought into over time. I initially thought Brady's loosening of the reins was 100% positive. It seemed like he had scratched his competitive itch. He'd won 6 Super Bowls, he left Bill Belichick and the Patriots. He actually seemed happy, and he still went on to win another Super Bowl. I remember seeing dude at the parade letting loose and having fun, and I thought to myself, bro, good for Brady. He deserves it. I was just glad people was letting him have some fun and not overly judging him because, he was getting a little bit more loose than normal. I mean, if you can imagine rolling into retirement like this, from the outside looking in, it just seemed like, okay, you set up for a happy ass life, boy, you good. Then he retires, and I think to myself, okay, cool. The man went out on top. He got more Super Bowls than anybody gonna be able to sniff for an extremely long time. He split from Belichick and then won another one. Perfect exit, GOAT status. I was already planning my Tom Brady video to show my respects to the GOAT and, maybe tell a story from a slightly different perspective than the one we've seen a million times. Then he came back. From that point on, things got weird. Secret yachts and backroom plans to pull off one of the biggest boss moves of all time. All in Tom Brady was apparently flirting with a new team while he was under contract. I mean, I respect it, but it didn't seem very Brady-like. He had started to move different, less structured than usual. And I didn't think it was like too big of a deal, but I started paying more attention. Then he leaves training camp, Rumors are flying, the Masked Singer maybe something with the fam. It's all weird. Then he comes back and has this somber press conference that felt like he'd just been eliminated from the playoffs after a long season. He did not sound like a guy that was gearing up for a brand new season with all of the ups and downs and just the turbulence that, he's getting ready to face. Of course, he knows he's done this 22 other times. He knows better than anybody, but the energy of that press conference was obviously different. Then he says the line, "I'm 45, I got a lot of stuff going on." And it's not just like what he said, it was the way he said it. And if you didn't know any better, just looking at that could look like the Brady on the field that we've known for all of these years, maybe no more. But if history tells us anything, he'll probably get out there, look just like Brady, win a bunch of games, make the playoffs, and be in the hunt for a Super Bowl down the stretch. His comments at that press conference was some of the most interesting comments he'd probably ever made in his career, at least from the podium. It was a rare human moment from a dude who's been operating for 2 decades at a level that at times has seemed to surpass normal human limitations. I really do like having the motto of an unstoppable underdog who came from nothing and took over the league and became the best ever. That's great. But I could also find the benefit of that dude standing at the podium and me seeing with my eyes that, okay, he's not immune to the stuff that everybody else is dealing with. And his money and fame and legacy doesn't allow him to just surpass these issues. You got to deal with them just like everybody else. That's relatable. After all dudes accomplished in the football world, he sits alone at the top of the mountain, which sounds cool at first until you realize you're alone on the top of a fucking mountain. Imagine how many teammates he's seen come and go. It's probably why he does the whole "Hi, I'm Tom Brady" thing with all of his teammates, because he knows he might never see their ass again. Like the fear of being cut, the average NFL player has problems that Brady no longer does. But as a 45-year-old man in the face of the franchise, one of the most famous people in the world, married to one of the most famous people in the world, Brady's got issues that 99.9% of the locker room have never experienced and never will. And I just think that now we're starting to see the effects of all of those issues take a toll on one of the sturdiest dudes in sports history. Now, Aaron Rodgers is in a completely different place, but he got there the same way. All he did was stay that dude for so damn long that he became that old, wise, kind of crazy ex-athlete that you see on TV, but he did it while he was still playing at an MVP level. A lot like Brady, Aaron has transcended athletics and maneuvers more like a movie star than he does an athlete. And Brady give off the movie star vibes as well, but Aaron Rodgers is doing it without the stability of a family at home. Dude's gotten so big and powerful that he even went up Brett Favre, who previously held the Packers hostage back in the day. And Rodgers has openly flirted with abandoning his post as the Packers quarterback to become the host of Jeopardy! It's not that many people with that type of leverage. It's not that many people who could flex a muscle quite like that. Now, a lot of people believe that his newly found free-spirited approach to football was one of the reasons that Davante Adams left. Not sure if that's true, but the threat of Aaron walking at any time is real, because he truly doesn't seem to need the game anymore. And I say this all the time, but this is not an inherently bad thing. It's going to be bad for the organization and tough on them because they're used to operating with a certain level of leverage. And when you're dealing with Brady and Rodgers, you just don't have that leverage, At least with Tom, he all in for the championship. With Aaron, bro, you really don't know what Aaron is on from day to day. And while Tom's got his family and what seems like a whole team kind of steering his moves, Aaron just out here just whipping, bro. He just whip wherever he feel like going. Ain't nobody in the back seat. It don't really matter. He can go wherever he want. You know what I'm saying? So he just hitting streets. He don't know where he gonna end up. He don't care. He doing his thing. Recently, he's opened up about using psychedelics and hallucinogens. And he's really leaned into this thing. And due to his longevity, excellence over such a long period of time, his legacy is so cemented that there's nothing people can do to make him walk in the straight line that they want him to walk in. And it is fascinating. It's fascinating to watch. Anytime the system can be openly challenged by a player, it's gonna create a level of chaos until we settle into a new norm. And I think sports in general, but the NFL specifically, is gonna be changing a lot over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I think we're gonna be in a constant state of change. So basically, chaos doesn't just come when you're young and transitioning into adulthood. It comes in the middle of any transition in life, where people grow and change into a different version of themselves. The 2022 NFL season marks Aaron Rodgers' 18th year and Brady's 23rd. But seeing where their careers have taken them makes me think about the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jacksons, and Justin Herberts of the world. You know, all those young quarterbacks that are trying to take over the league that Aaron was referring to in that opening clip.
But yeah, it's a young man's game, and that's the fun part is the battle against time and the battle against age and the battle against the young guys trying to take your spot.
With the rule changes and medical advancements, better recovery processes, and more money than ever before, which of the young QBs will grow into these ultimate OG roles than Brady and Rodgers are currently holding down? Will these dudes continue to be seen more as the anomaly? After them, things just kind of go back to normal? Or will playing at a high level at age 45 just become the new normal? I kind of think it'll be like when the first guy ran the 4-minute mile. This is a pretty common story, but if you don't know it, basically, nobody was able to record a 4-minute mile in human history until Roger Bannister did it in 1954. The 4-minute mile had become a barrier in sports for so damn long that people thought it was literally not even possible. Then when dude did it for the first time, 2 months later, 2 more people did it. Pretty quickly after that, 4-minute mile just became the standard for top runners. Like, it's still an impressive feat, but tons and tons of people have done it now, all because they was able to see the first guy pull it off. Maybe the same thing happens with the top QBs, maybe not. But either way, these 2 legends will either become the model or the measuring stick. I was different. That was fun though.